Hi everyone, welcome to NISHTA IAS. So, last session we did it off camera. So I was bit under the weather also. There was little bit technical issues. Both the issues were there. So now again, continuing with where we left off. I think in the last 4 sessions we discussed 2 for ancient history, 1 for modern medieval history, early medieval India also in the same session. And then we discussed 1 for we can talk about the art and culture aspect. And now we are coming into the modern history. Tomorrow we will cover majorly current affairs aspect. So all the 6 sessions we are going to cover, and that is what that is how we plan this session for. So here again we'll stick to the PYQ themes, the major themes that was there. And so without further ado, let's start with that one, the Prelims Express day 5 with modern history. And the first topic we are going to discuss is the British imperialism topic. Okay, so there were a few questions were there. Particularly 2 topics we are going to discuss over here. So we'll go in chronological manner only. So British imperialism, that is of course what are the tools they use for occupation of India. And then again we are going to go with, we can say, the major freedom movements we can talk about, particularly all the national movements, particularly the mass movements which were there. The Swadeshi movement, okay, non-cooperation movement. I think you can see in 2025 prelims they asked 2 questions from non-cooperation movement. And then again we will see civil disobedience movement, before that Home Rule League movement also, then Quit India movement also. So that's how we are going to keep. And a few British policies also we are going to discuss, that is land revenue policy as well as education policy. Because land revenue policy was also questions were asked. So we will solve this one too. And one that imperialism policy was, we can talk about, of course, first we'll solve the questions. And then we will go with, we can talk about the topic understanding. So this was one question that was asked in 2018. That is subsidiary alliance system. Which one of the following statement does not apply? Be careful while reading questions. You have to be very careful that does not apply to the system of subsidiary alliance system. It means in terms of objectives, to maintain a large standing army at others' expense, to keep India safe from Napoleonic danger, to secure a fixed income for the company, to establish British paramountcy. Of course, when they are trying to implement any kind of, we can talk about the imperialism policies, so always want to establish the supremacy of the British. That is always there. And Wellesley, he was the Governor General of India, Governor General of Bengal from 1798 to 1804, 1805. That is when the Napoleon was at his peak of his power. So to safeguard India from Napoleonic danger also, yes, this policy was used to make sure that Indian rulers are not, we can say, overall we can talk about not having any kind of connections, we can say, with the any foreigners for that matter, particularly Napoleon. And that is the reason with subsidiary alliance system they want to take away that external affairs power of Indian states. So yes, to safeguard India from Napoleonic danger also. And of course, how do you safeguard? What is the promise the Britishers made? That we are going to station our troops in your, we can say, state. And that is how. When you are going to station our troops, obviously the state which are getting the troops are the one who are going to pay the money. And that is the reason to maintain large army at others' expense. So to secure a fixed income for the company, that is not there. So answer is C, which does not apply. Okay, so now let's understand this subsidiary alliance system. Okay, so it was brought by Richard Wellesley. Be careful, 1798 to 1805. So again, the another Wellesley called as Arthur Wellesley is different. Is Richard Wellesley. He was the Governor General. Now there are 3 objectives, the same 3 objectives which we saw in the answer options: to maintain army at others' expense, to keep India safe from Napoleon, and to establish British supremacy, also called as British paramountcy, over the Indian states. So these are the 3 we can talk about objectives of subsidiary alliance system. Of course, we are not discussing any wars and everything, but we will see which states signed this subsidiary alliance system. Because once you sign this subsidiary alliance system, you will coming under the either direct or indirect control of the Britishers, particularly British East India Company. But how it was working, subsidiary alliance system we can talk about, how it actually worked. First and foremost, of course, the Britishers will give troops, that is stationing troops, and the people or the state who is accepting the troops, they have to provide some subsidy. If not subsidy, they have to provide some kind of, we can say, territory also. That is also they have to give. And from that territory, Britishers will going to, we can say, collected taxes from that particular territory, and a British officer will also be named over there. British officers will be stationed there. That is, a resident or agent will be stationed. And they have to make a condition, they have to make a promise to Indian states that they are not going to support any Europeans in the services. They are not going to give any concessions to other Europeans, of course, other than Britishers we can talk about. And to keep India safe from Napoleon, to make sure that these states are not negotiating with Napoleon, that is the reason they put this condition, that without the Governor General's approval, without the consultation of the Governor General, no negotiation with the foreigners we can talk about. Okay, no negotiation with the foreigners. So that one of the conditions was used to maintain that British supremacy we can talk about. Okay, and lastly, of course, we can talk about Britishers' promise non-interference in internal affairs. Britishers are not going to interfere in internal affairs. The promise they seldom kept. They always interfere in the internal affairs of, we can say, the Indian princes. And they also said that one, if we violate any kind of rules, okay, we are going to annex the territory. And first and foremost, we are going to protect from third-party attacks. If not, we are going to annex it. If any state violates this one, British said we are going to annex the territory and we are going to directly take over the rule of this particular, we can say rule, particular state. So this is how the working of subsidiary alliance system happened. To fulfill those objectives, this is how it was working. And now, is it really an alliance? Little bit of analysis, not so from the prelims perspective. It was never an alliance. It is gave away independence of that state, and the state became, we can say, subservient to the interests of the Britishers, and there is no self-defense over here. You are giving away your defense rights also, and that is the reason Tipu Sultan, before the 4th Anglo-Mysore War, he refused to sign this particular treaty, and giving false pretext, Richard Wellesley attacked Mysore, attacked Tipu Sultan. And that is a direct, we can talk one of the results of, we can say, subsidiary alliance system. So which directly led to 4th Anglo-Mysore War. But which are the states that signed? Okay, which are the states that signed this particular status? I have given all the list over here, okay, that we can talk about. Hyderabad is the first state to sign, Mysore, Tanjore, Awadh, Peshwa, Sindhya, Gaikwad, Berar. Again, of course, these are Maratha states, Peshwa, Sindhya, Gaikwad, Berar, as well as we can say Olkar and Sindh in 1839, and some of the Rajput states like Jodhpur, Jaipur, Macheri, Bandi. Okay, so they signed in 1818. So chronologically also all this have been given. So you people just have to go and, we can say, revise all these things. Of course, as we are uploading these PPTs on our NISHTA official channel. Okay, so that's where NISHTA official Telegram channel. Okay, just go and revise. Okay, of course, some of if you have to write this one. Okay, 1 second. Oh yes, I need to go backwards. I will just write where these states are coming from. Okay, that we can say Peshwa, that is from Pune. Okay, and then again Sindhya, we can talk about Gwalior. Okay, and then Gaikwad from Baroda. Okay, then Olkar from Indore. Okay, Berar also in Maharashtra. Understood? Okay, so rest of the state, you know, that is Hyderabad, Mysore, Awadh, we know that is in UP. Okay, Tanjavur in Tamil Nadu, Mysore is in Karnataka, Hyderabad, we know that is in south part, that we can talk about, that's in Telangana region right now. And Jodhpur, Jaipur, Macheri, Bandi, all of them are in Rajasthan. So these are the states that signed the subsidiary alliance system. Okay, so yes. Okay, so now we are coming into the doctrine of lapse. So it is Dalhousie's policy. It is directly led to, we can talk about the 1857 revolt also. Okay, so this is one of the policies. 1 second, little bit of that one. It's a Dalhousie's doctrine of lapse. Okay, what is this doctrine of lapse? So of course, it is taking away some of the traditional right of Indian ruling families. So it is applying to those states which were under the direct suzerainty of the British rule. What my direct suzerainty of British rule is that one, those states which had an agreement with the Britishers, okay, those states which had an agreement with the Britishers and had surrendered some of the powers of Britishers, like maybe external affairs, like subsidiary alliance states, they were under the suzerainty of the Britishers, we can talk about. Okay, it is not applied to all the princely states of India, only to few states of India we can talk about. Okay, and only few states, and those states we can talk about, that is, which were under the East India Company's supremacy. Okay, now what is doctrine of lapse? We know that is what, or rather I would reverse engineer that since ancient times, so Indian ruling families we can talk about, they had the traditional right, if they did not have a male heir, so they used to adopt a son from their extended families, and those son used to be carried to the Gadi. So they will have rights over the state. But right now, doctrine of lapse said that one, the adopted sons will not have any right over the state, and now that state will be lapsed into the British rule. The Britishers are going to annex that particular state. So that is what we can talk about, doctrine of lapse stated. And we can talk about the states which have signed. All the list is here. The Kittur is the first state to sign in Karnataka. Mandvi in Gujarat 1839, Kolaba in Maharashtra 1840, Jalaun in UP in 1840, then Surat in 1842 Gujarat. So these are the states, especially we can talk about after Satara, we can talk about these are the states that was annexed by, we can say, Dalhousie. Okay, so before that, even before Dalhousie only these, this doctrine was already being applied, but Dalhousie made it, this doctrine very systematic. So that is how this particular doctrine became quite controversial during that point of time, and directly led to, we can talk, 1857 revolt too, like Satara in 1848, Jaitpur in UP 1849, Sambalpur in Odisha 1849, Bhagat in Himachal Pradesh 1850, Udaipur is a Chhattisgarh state, don't get confused, 1852. Jhansi, one of the famous, 1854. Nagpur in 54. Then Tanjore and Arcot in 1855. Okay, so these are the states that signed Doctrine of Lapse we can talk about. Okay, so then later look at this particular question, another area we are coming into, that is we can talk about the land revenue settlements. So of course one area we finished, the British imperialism, the occupation. Now the British colonialism we can talk about, the particularly the land revenue systems, and few questions that were asked and also repeated with reference to Royatwari settlement. Consider the following statement. 2012, the rent was paid directly by the peasants to the government. The government gave pattas to the Royats. The lands were surveyed and assessed before being taxed. Yes, Royat means peasants. It's a direct settlement with the peasants. So Zamindari system is a settlement with the Zamindars. Mahalwari system is a settlement with the Mahals, that is estates or villages. Now it's a direct settlement. Royats are the owners. And of course, to fix the revenue, you have to assess the land. It's very common sense. So which of the statements are given above correct? So all three are correct. This is 1, 2, 3. It is asked in, we can say 2012. Then again, same question again repeated, we can talk about it in a different way. Why it is not coming? 1 second. I'll come back. Yes. Okay. Now, who among the following were associated with the introduction of Royatwari? It's in 2017. Look at again. One more. This is one more repetition of Royatwari team. One more question was asked in 2024 prelims, but that question has been removed by UPSC. We know that one. So that was a little bit of vague statements for that. So that was removed. So 3 times this question has been repeated. So that is the reason we are learning this one. The 2017. Cornwallis associated with that one, or Alexander Reed or Thomas Munro. Okay, select the correct answer. Cornwallis is associated with Zamindari settlement and not with, we can say, 1 second. Okay, not with, we can say, Royatwari settlement. Some kind of issue. Yes. Now, that is failing at Cornwallis. Okay, that we can come with answer 2 and 3. Cornwallis is associated with Zamindari settlement. Okay, the Cornwallis code. That directly led to, we can say, some of judicial reforms also, revenue reforms also. So if you eliminate that one, 2 and 3 will come. So now we are going to understand all the land revenue settlements. There is 4 land revenue settlements were there. Ijardari system, then again Royatwari system, Zamindari system, and then lastly we can talk about Mahalwari system. Chronologically, we will discuss everyone. 1772, 1793, again 1820, again 1833. So these are the 4 land revenue system. Now first, let's talk about Ijardari system. It was brought by, we can say, Warren Hastings. It is called as revenue farming method also. What by Ijardari, what by revenue farming method? The East India Company got the right to collect revenue through Diwani rights in 1765, Treaty of Allahabad or Treaty of Prayagraj we can talk about, with Shah Alam II. After the Battle of Buxar, now the East India Company has the right to collect taxes, and now they want to collect taxes from millions of peasants, especially in Bengal, Bihar and Odisha. Now they auctioned out this particular right. They auctioned out the particular right of, we can say, revenue collection to these Ijardars. Obviously, the person who is bidding higher amount got the right to collect the revenue, and this auctioning process is called as revenue farming. That is, the revenue collection right is farmed out to the highest bidder. But this highest bidder, let's say one person bid 500 rupees per annum to be collected from the peasants to be given to the East India Company. Some person bid 1000 rupees to be collected from the peasants and given to the East India Company. Obviously, the person who is bidding the highest amount, that is 1000 rupees bidding, you would be given the right to collect. Okay, but that person is allowed to collect as much as possible from the, we can say, peasants. That is where the problem with this particular system was there. Okay, so he is obligated to pay 1000 rupees to the East India Company. That's what East India Company cared about. But how much he is collecting from the peasants, East India Company never cared about that one. So look at this one. It is brought by Warren Hastings in 1772. Now collection right was farmed out, we can say, to auctioned out to the highest bidder. And to maintain this process, or to supervise this process, European district collectors were appointed. So that is how the word come into existence. That is European district collectors in charge of revenue administration. But what is the flip of this particular system? The bidder can extract as much as possible from the peasants. That is where it is found. East India Company did not care about this particular aspect, and again it led to ruination of agriculture. Okay, livelihood also lost, and of course we can say 1770s in Bengal it is famines happened. One of the questions asked in 2022 mains, that is why were increase in famines during the British rule, especially in the late part of 18th century, early part of 19th century. These are policies that led to. And also one more thing, this Ijardari system initially, okay, this system initially, it was for 5 years. Okay, the bidding was done for 5 years, from 1772 to, let's say, 1777. That bidding was ended. But from 1772 or 1777 onwards, it became annual. Okay, it became annual measure, we can say annual, we can say settlement. Initially it was for 5 years. Later it became annual. Okay, so that is one aspect, the Ijardari system. Okay, so now we'll come to Zamindari system brought by Cornwallis. It was part of the Cornwallis code that we discussed in one of the questions we can talk about, 1792-93. Now, Ijardari system, because of the bidding process after it became annual in 1777, the revenue proceeds used to vary from year because it depends upon the bidding. What if the bidding amount is too high? That cannot be collected from peasants. What if the bidding amount is too low? East India Company will be worried about the revenue collection. So it used to vary from year to year, and that is the reason East India Company thought like, or Cornwallis thought like, that is just fix the revenue. The revenue will not change. So that is the reason it is called as permanent settlement also. And who is made responsible to pay the revenue? It is the zamindars were made to pay the made responsible to pay the revenue, so called as zamindari system. And the zamindars were called by different names in different areas. So they are called as malguzars. That is the reason Malguzari settlement, Jagirdaris in some places, Jagirdari settlement, Biswadars in some area, Biswadari settlement. So this is what zamindari settlement. Now zamindars are responsible to pay the revenue. Now zamindars will collect from the people. Okay, and how much zamindars should be paid? That is decided by the East India Company. But again, zamindars can extract as much as possible from the peasants also. And also one of the incentive that was given to zamindars is that one, that is zamindars are declared as owners of the land. That is what happened. Zamindars were previously revenue collectors. Okay, zamindars were revenue collectors for some kind of commission. They used to collect some kind of commission from the state. That is how state used the services of, we can say, we talked about these patwaris, accountants for their cuts, mukaddams. If you go back and we can say interrelate with that paragana level, village level, okay, particularly village level, non-government officials or non-government personalities who helped in the administration, it was zamindars. But right now, what happened is that one recognized as the owners of the land. Okay, so now the peasants' land from which they were previously collecting revenue, and now they were recognized as the owners of the land by giving them documents. Now the peasants lost land, and overnight zamindars became very rich. That is the reason after independence we had to bring some laws like, we can say, abolition of zamindari system. Okay, then again land ceiling acts, all those kind of things. Okay, and they were also deprived of their traditional functions too. Now they were made to collect only revenue. What is the traditional functions of zamindar? Magisterial functions. We can talk about, we can say, law and order function, policing function. Exactly. And now the revenue will be divided into 11 parts. Out of 11 parts, 1 part will be kept by zamindars and 10 parts would be given to East India Company. That is 1 by 11 should be kept by zamindars only. Now they are the owners of the land. They could mortgage right now, sell the land. They can collect the revenue. They can cultivate it. But if they default, if they did not pay that revenue, what will happen? Their zamindari right will be taken away. Their zamindari right will be actioned to another zamindar. And that is called a sunset clause. Sunset clause in the sense, one day will be fixed, the date will be fixed. On the date, by the time of the sunset, if you don't pay the revenue, your zamindari right will be auctioned out or will be given to somebody else by confiscating that one. And now it led to sub-infeudation also. Now zamindars became owners of the thousands of acres and they used to live in cities and everything. And that is the reason they gave their rent collection right to some other zamindars. So they further rent the land to, we can talk about the cultivators. They can further give their zamindari right to some other zamindars to collect the revenue. Okay, that's exactly what happened. Understood? Resulted in subletting or sub-infeudation. Now owners of the land became tenants. Revenue collectors previously became owners. Okay, so sub-infeudation, I think we talked about that particular concept while talking about feudalism also. Okay, and now one of the advantages for British system was that they could collect the revenue from few zamindars rather than, we can say, millions of peasants. So that is also one of the aspect that Britishers considered, that we can say they can collect the revenue from few zamindars. And where it was introduced? In Bengal, Bihar, okay, we can say Odisha, UP in Banaras region, Northern Madras, that is Carnatic region we can talk about. It is amounted to 19% of British India. There were two Indian states during that point of time, British provinces, then are princely states. If British provinces, if you take it as 100% of British India, and out of 100%, 19% of the areas it covered a zamindari system. Okay, and what are the effects? Very simple. Tenants, owners became tenants in their own land. They had to become bonded labor because they need to continue the livelihood. They bonded to the zamindars we can talk about. Zamindars became overnight owners. And zamindars had to issue pattas, but legalizing their particular, we can say, the tenancy rights, but they were never issued that one. Now the tenants came under the mercy of zamindar. They're called tenants at will. Okay, and if they don't pay, that is tenants will be evicted. The zamindars have the right to evict also, but zamindars also having some kind of effect. Now what is the zamindars effect is that one sunset clause. If they don't pay, zamindari right will also be taken away, and that is the reason zamindars participated in 1857 revolt. The peasants also participated in 1857 revolt. Okay, so this is zamindari system. Now come to Royatwari system. Royat means peasants, very simple. It is introduced in 1820. Royat means peasants. It is introduced by Alexander Reed, Thomas Munro. We can talk about. These are the two people that we saw in that particular question also. And it is introduced in Bombay, Madras, Assam and Coorg. Coorg is in Karnataka. It is amounted to 51% of British India. 19% of British India was zamindari system. 51% of British India was Royatwari system. So it is the largest settlement in terms of, we can say, which revenue settlement was the largest. And now, of course, the rates is differed. What is the rates is differed? In irrigated area, it would be 60%, that is wetlands. In non-irrigated area, or in dry lands we can talk about, that would be 50%. It is too high. Okay, it is too high to pay. And there will be no zamindars in between the government as well as the peasants. Now, it's a direct relationship between peasants as well as the government or the state. But in the zamindari system, there are middlemen. That is zamindars for the middleman. And why this system was introduced? Because in South India, especially in these parts we can talk about, there was lack of zamindars also. Zamindari system was quite entrenched in, we can say, northern part as well eastern part of the country. And then there was, government did not want to give any kind of share, some commission to the zamindars also. And also it is influenced by one of the philosophical thoughts, or we can some kind of ideological thinking, that is called as Scottish Enlightenment. The Scottish Enlightenment, also called as utilitarian ideas, it talked about no middleman between land as well as the state. So all these influences, we can say, had a impact on Royatwari settlement, we can say. And now Royats are the owners. They can sell and mortgage. No eviction as long as they pay. If they default, they will be evicted. But the problem with the system is that one, high rates. In zamindari system, they lost the land only. But in Royatwari system, even though they are the owners of the land, but they are exploited through high taxation rights. High taxation we can talk about. And I finally led to Deccan Royats. Some peasant revolts happened in 1875, and that made the because of this high taxation, high exploitation, they migrated from one place to another places. Especially they migrated out of this Royatwari region. Now Mahalwari system, Mahal means village, very simple. It's a settlement with the village. Village as a whole is responsible to pay the revenue. Of course, village as a whole will give it to the village head. Village head is going to give it to the British East India Company we can talk about. Okay, so this Mahalwari system is village. 1833, William Bentinck, Holt Mackenzie, R.M. Bird and James Thompson. All these people who are involved in designing this particular system, that is, we can talk about 1833 onwards. It is introduced in UP, Agra, parts of UP, Agra, Central Province, Punjab and Northwest Frontier Province. It is amounted to 30% of British India. 19% was zamindari system, 51% was Royatwari system, and 30% is British India we can talk about. Okay, and now it's a unit of settlement. What is the unit of settlement in zamindari system? With zamindar. The unit of settlement with, we can say, Royatwari system, Royats. Now here the unit of settlement is village. That is body of co-shares it is called as. Jointly responsible for the payment. That's right. It is called as, we can say, community as a whole, or also called as the body of co-shares. All of them are responsible. All the village will be assessed. If anybody leaves the village also, the other villagers can take over that land and they can start cultivating that particular land too. So that is the advantage for that one. Now revenue collection determined on the basis of the, what is the village mahals produce, what is the overall produce of that particular mahal. If anybody abandons, the community can take over. The community as a whole is considered as the owners of that particular village land as well as surrounding forests. Okay, this is a community concept we can talk about, and they will pay to the village head, that is Lambardhar. They will collect and pay. That's right. Okay, and it is also, we can say, sometimes it went to even 80% also. So in some cases, later it was reduced to 66% actually. I'll come down to here, but I have not mentioned over here. In some cases, it went to 80% also, 80%. In some areas, then again, due to various pressures and everything, reduce it to 66%, it's still high, 2/3 as a taxation measure we can talk about, that is huge. So this is Mahalwari system we can talk about. So these are all the four revenue methods, or we can say revenue settlements that we discuss over here. And now we are coming into education. We discuss British imperialism. We discuss, we can talk about, we can say, the revenue settlements of Britishers, and then again the education. Of course, education also one of the themes. Many questions have been asked. Now look at here. So now in 2018, with reference to the educational institution during the British India, consider the following pairs: institution and the founder. Sanskrit College, Banaras, William Jones. Okay. Then again we can talk about Calcutta Madrasa, Warren Hastings, and then again Fort William College, Arthur Wellesley. Which of the pairs are correct? Arthur Wellesley, no, he was a military commander. He was not the Governor General. Fort William College by the same Richard Wellesley who brought that subsidiary alliance system. That question was asked in 2020 prelims actually. So Fort William College, it is a civil services training college started by Arthur Wellesley. Calcutta Madrasa, Varanasi Singh is correct. Sanskrit College, Benares was by, we can talk about Jonathan Duncan, not William Jones. Okay, William Jones is different. That is Asiatic Society of Bengal. So which pairs are correct? Okay, 1 second, some kind of issue. I don't know. Okay, just don't worry about it. Answer option is not coming properly. Maybe some kind of issue. I don't know exactly what is happening, but just to understand that one. So answer is only this one. Okay, that is 2 only. That is B only. Don't worry about other answer options. This is wrong, and this is also wrong. Only this one is correct. That is, we can talk about the Calcutta Madrasa is correct. Okay, I don't know, some kind of issue with this one. Okay, answer is B actually. Okay, don't worry about it. I've just explained that. Now one more question regarding Woods dispatch. Again, education theme. Which of the following statements are true? Grants in aid system was introduced. Then establishment of universities was recommended. And then again, we can talk about English as a medium of instruction at all levels of, we can say, education was recommended. Okay. So at the answers 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 1 and 3, and 1, 2, 3. You can just eliminate this one at all levels. It's an absolute statement. If you eliminate 2, 3, you will just come as answer as we can say 1 and 2. So Woods dispatch and another other committee. The Macaulay Minute was another we can say policy related to education. William Adam report was also there. So we are going to discuss all this education related. Now one more also. Which of the following led to the introduction of English education? 2018 Charter Act of 1813, General Committee of Public Instruction, Orientalist Anglicist controversy. Okay, 1 second. So that's the correct answer. Okay, 1 and 2. 2 only, 1 and 3, 1, 2, 3. Now, all of them actually had played a role. Okay, Charter Act of 1813 gave 1 lakh rupees for education. To spend that 1 lakh rupees, there was a controversy controversy between Orientalists and Anglicists. Orientalists wanted Indian system of education to be continued. Anglicists wanted English medium education to be continued. Now, General Committee of Public Instruction was formed to resolve this controversy. So that is the reason all of them contributed for the introduction of English education system. That is the answer option is D. We can talk 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now, early institution that was established, like we can talk 1781, Varanasi Singh established Calcutta Madrasa for study of Islamic laws. Because they were new in India by 1770s, by 1760s they are getting we can say imperial, we can say colonial rights over India, that tried to rule over India, some parts of India. So they want to rule the country on the basis of the local laws. To study the local laws, particularly Islamic laws, they established Calcutta Madrasa in 1781. Now in 1791-92 they established Sanskrit College in Varanasi by Jonathan Duncan to study the Hindu law also. And these particular institutions, they provided, so we can say, kind of a low clerk level, we can say, officers from India to help run the East India Company administration. We can talk about as a regular supply of low or cheap labor. We can talk about or cheap labor in terms of, we can say, qualified Indians to help the Britishers in administration of the law, because they did not want to introduce a British system of law in India. They want to run administration on the basis of Indian law system only, to learn Hindu laws, to learn, we can talk about the Islamic laws. Some other Asiatic Society of Bengal, William Jones was there. Okay, we discussed that in one of the answer options we can talk about. And then again 1784, and to study the Oriental system, Oriental philosophy. Oriental means Eastern philosophy. Eastern philosophy included, of course, India also. And again Literary Society of Bombay, it is 1804. James Mackintosh, it is also called as Asiatic Society of, Asiatic Society of Bombay in 2002, actually it is named as Asiatic Society of Bombay or Mumbai in 2002, again to promote research in India, that is Oriental research. So it's an early educational institution that was established by Britishers, okay, particularly we can say Calcutta Madrasa, we can say, and then again we can talk about Sanskrit College, Asiatic Society of Bengal, Asiatic Society of Bombay or Mumbai. Okay, now towards introduction of what? English education system. 1 lakh rupees was given in 1813, the Charter Act of 1813. Okay, and then it was released in 1823, and now the controversy on how to spend the money, on which kind of education system, whether Indian education system or whether the English education system. And that is the reason, to resolve the controversy, Edward Hastings, not Warren Hastings, Edward Hastings, another Governor General, he constituted a committee, and that is called as Committee of General Public Instruction or Committee of Public Instruction in 1823. The chairman of this committee was Thomas Macaulay, and there were 10 members, and these members were divided actually. Okay, these members were divided on 2 groups, that is Orientalist group as well as Anglicist groups, and these members had differences over the type of education system. Some of them wanted, we can say, English education. Some of them wanted to continue Indian education system. So that is what controversy over how to spend. Anglicist, Orientalist. Now Anglicists, of course, they wanted modern science education system, Western education system in English medium, and those who supported were called as, we can say, Elphinstone, Charles Trevelyan. These are the 2 leaders of that particular committee that supported the Anglicist viewpoint. Then Orientalist we can talk about, that is traditional Indian learning. Okay, to learn, expand the Indian traditional learning, and of course vernacular language medium, not English language medium. And the leaders would be Eamon Wilson as well as S.T. Prinsep. So this is what we can talk about the controversy. And the controversy is settled with the Macaulay's report. That Macaulay's report came in 1835, called as Macaulay's Minute. Okay, in 1835. And this Macaulay's Minute, one second, he said that the resources should be used for English education system in India, that is Western education system, because he felt like the Indian languages are not developed. He felt like only English language is developed. Okay, that is the reason given by Macaulay, and argued that Indian languages were backward and not developed. And he also infamously said that he wanted to create a pool of Indians who just look like Indians. Okay, who just look like Indians, but in taste, morals and everywhere, they should be having Western thought and system. They could serve the British interests in India, and they could become loyal to India. So that is a famous, or rather infamous statement made by, we can say, Macaulay, that is Indians in blood and color, but English in taste, opinion, morals as well as in intellect we can talk about. So this is what we can talk about, the principles behind Macaulay's Minute, and it is also called as downward infiltration theory. What is this downward infiltration theory? Macaulay suggested that we are going to educate only few people, that is upper caste or middle caste. We are not going to open school for mass education. They neglected mass education in the belief that these upper caste as well as middle caste are going to help the education of the lower caste. So that is how we can talk about, that is the basic meaning of downward infiltration theory. Educate few upper classes and middle classes, and they will percolate it, and they will expand among the masses. So Macaulay's Minute did not give any importance to mass education system, only for few educating only few sections. Now that theory was discarded by another report called as the Wood's Dispatch. It was sent from England. A dispatch is sent from England to India in 1854. That was by Charles Wood. He was the president of Board of Control, BOC. Okay, if you have read a Regulating Act, okay, we can talk about, we can say, then we can Pitt-Cindy Act. So all of them created the structure of the company, Court of Directors, Board of Control. So he was the Board of Control president. It is called as, we can talk about it, rejected the downward infiltration theory as Macaulay, and it is called as, we can say, Magna Carta of Indian education system. Why? Because it gave some new recommendations. What are the new recommendations? The recommendations are quite forward looking, and even today also they hold true. Now it said that government should assume responsibility for the mass education, not the upper class, not the middle class. It is the government should have that particular, we can talk about, assume responsibility. And education department should be established in all provinces, and again there should be one government school in every district. So that is a responsibility the government should take. Okay, and they established 3 universities. There are universities in 3 provinces. BBM is Bombay, then again Bengal as well as Madras. Okay, 3 universities, Bombay, Bengal as well as Madras. I'm just using, we can say, some wordings just to make sure that we can cover it quite quickly. Okay, and it promoted women education system. Okay, and then again what Macaulay suggested was that only English education, only English medium, but it said that vernacular levels at the lower schools, Anglo vernacular at the high schools, then again we can say completely English in colleges. So it has to be a transition from vernacular to English by the time of the colleges. But the answer option was given was that one, that is all levels English medium. It was wrong. Then secular education should be vocational training, that is skills training to the students. Then again, teachers training should be there. Then again, you should provide the grants in aid to the any private efforts. If the private people are coming forward to establish schools and colleges, yes, the grants in aid should be provided. So this is what we can talk about the recommendation of, we can say, Charles Foote. That is the reason it is called as Magna Carta. It is quite forward looking. Even today also, this almost all those recommendations holds true. But of course, the overall, we can say, principles, or we can say overall goal of English was always to exploit India. And that is also there, to make Indians as a better consumers of the British goods. That's what exactly. Some other education committees have mentioned: Hunter Education Commission, Relay Committee, Sadler Committee, Arto Committee, Warda Scheme of Education. It is based on Zakir Hussain. That is Warda Scheme of Education is based on Gandhian mode of education, and that is recommended by Zakir Hussain Committee. And Sargent Plan, and again Radhakrishna Commission, 1949. So I mentioned all these particular committees. So this is what other education committees we can talk about. Okay, so this is education system. And within education system, within educational report, one more report was produced, but it was never implemented. Macaulay report was implemented, Wood's dispatch was implemented, but William Adams report, it was even earlier than Macaulay, almost similar time as Macaulay, but it was never implemented. It was a Christian missionary, William Adam. He was quite influenced by Rajaram Mohan Rai. He was asked by William Bentinck to report on, we can talk about the educational conditions of Bengal, Bihar as well as Odisha provinces during that point of time. So Bentinck commissioned Adam to inquire into in 1835 to investigate the state of education. So he produced certain recommendations, some reports, actually provided some 3 reports between 1835 to 1838, but it was never implemented. Actually Macaulay's minute was chosen over William Adam report, and these are some of the recommendations that was given, almost similar to, we can talk about the Charles Foote dispatch report. Like we talk about vernacular language should be given importance, textbook should be there, and land grant should also be given to local schools. Then again, demonstration of, we can say, farms for agricultural education, because that is a skill development, because majorly people depend upon agriculture. Then again, district education officer should be there in every district. Teachers should get regular salary. Annual examination should be there. Teachers training should be there. But these are quite forward looking, we can say, recommendation, but never implemented, because Adams' report was discarded and Macaulay's minute was implemented, because that suited the purpose of colonialism during that point of time. Okay, so this is the 3 committees majorly we can talk about. That is Macaulay. Then again we can talk about that is Charles Foote dispatch, and then again we can talk about lastly William Adam. And now the last area within modern history we can come to, and that is these mass movements. Okay, the mass movement we can talk about: Swadeshi movement, Home Rule League movement, non-cooperation movement, civil disobedience movement, then Quit India movement. All these 5 movements we are going to cover. Now let's talk about the first mass movement, that is the Swadeshi movement. Now look at how many questions have come from Swadeshi movement. It is one of the, we can say, the first mass movements that happened during Indian freedom movement. The Swadeshi and boycott were adopted as a method of the struggle for the first time during 2016. Agitation against the partition of Bengal, Home Rule movement, non-cooperation movement, again visit of the Simon Commission to India. So answer has to be A. That is agitation against the partition of Bengal that ultimately went on to become the Swadeshi movement. That is one question that is asked. Then again 2019, with reference to Swadeshi movement, consider the following statements. It contributed to revival of indigenous artisan crafts and industries. Swadeshi means that only. National Council of Education was established as a part of the Swadeshi movement. Yes, national education was given importance. Which statement was correct? 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, neither 1 nor 2, that is C. So this is 2019, again one repetition. Okay, then again 2014, partition of Bengal made by Curzon in 1905 lasted until the First World War, when Indian troops were neared by the Britishers and partition was ended. King George V abrogated Curzon's act at the Royal Darbar in 1911. Gandhiji launched the civil disobedience movement. And then again, we can see the partition of India, one second, in 1947, when East Bengal became East Pakistan. So answer is actually second one. The King George V, he visited India in 1911 to attend the 3rd Royal Darbar. 3 Royal Darbars happened, and that is when it was abrogated. It ended the, we can say, partition. Then 2015, which one of the following movements has contributed to the split in the Indian National Congress, resulting in the emergence of moderates and extremists? The Swadeshi movement only. Okay, Swadeshi movement, Quit India movement, non-cooperation movement, then a civil disobedience movement. The answer is the Swadeshi movement, because that is where the moderates and extremists, their differences came to the forefront, especially in Surat session, that ultimately led to the split. Okay, that is Surat split in 1907 we can talk about. That is Swadeshi movement led to moderates and extremists. Now, what is the reason for the split of Indian National Congress in Surat? Look at again, there is a previous question that again repeated. Surat split in 1907, introduction of communalism into Indian politics by Minto. Extremist lack of faith in the capacity of the moderates to negotiate with the Britishers. Again, foundation of Muslim League. And lastly, Arvindo Ghosh's inability to be elected as the president of the Indian National Congress. The answer is the problem between extremists and moderates. The answer is B. Now, extremists said that when moderates are not bringing the, we can say, democracy what they had promised. So that is the belief system of this Swaraj that they had promised that they were never brought. So that is the reason extremists criticize the moderates and their capacity to lead the Indian national movement as well as to negotiate with the Britishers. And now we're coming into Swadeshi movement or anti-partition movement. That is, Bengal was divided. Bengal was divided into East Bengal as well as West Bengal to arrest the riding stem of Indian nationalism, to put under two different administration of Bengal and to have greater control over the people and to control, we can say, nationalistic aspiration that was growing. The Bengal was divided. Okay, so we can say the reasons is partition of Bengal in 1905, and that is by Curzon. Curzon was the Viceroy or Governor General. Okay, it was done on August 7th. The anti-partition movement started. Okay, that is the date, and to recognize this August 7th, Swadeshi anti-partition movement went on to become Swadeshi movement. The Indian government in 2015 declared that day as National Handloom Day in July 2015. Okay, because Swadeshi, indigenous industries, artisans, crafts, so declared as National Handloom Day. Okay, and then we can talk about in 1905 Banaras session of Indian National Congress. Gopalakrishna Gokhale was the president. Okay, Banaras session, Gopalakrishna Gokhale, they passed resolution against the partition. Now it is formal, INC gave formal support to this particular, we can talk about the anti-partition movement as well as Swadeshi movement. Okay, and now this movement actually had in different phases. The moderates were the earlier leaders, and later the movement was taken over by the extremists, because moderates were, we can say, their methods were becoming old. The extremists said that one, they are going to continue the movement. Understood? So now the leaders were Surendranath Banerjee, Krishna Kumar Mitra, Narendra Kumar Sen. So these are the leaders, moderate leaders we can talk about. They use usual methods, moderate method, the demonstrations, meetings, writing letters, okay, newspaper criticism, spreading awareness within the Bengal, and tried convincing the Britishers to end the partition or to not to bring partition into effect, because it is even before the partition that came into effect. Okay, so trying to convince the Britishers not to, we can say, divide Bengal through newspapers, through pamphlets, through demonstration, through meetings. Particularly some newspapers played a role. The Bengali newspaper, Itabadi newspaper, Sanjeevani newspaper, then again Indian Mirror. We can talk about, we can say, New India, Kesari, Maharatha. Okay, so the IBP is Amrit Bazar Patrika. Okay, Amrit Bazar Patrika. So all these newspapers played a role, but even the Kesari and Maharatha was led by extremists like Bala Gangadhar Tilak. But still, some newspapers also played a role, criticizing the Britishers and not to go ahead with the partition. Okay. And these methods were not working. Okay, these methods were not working, and that is the reason extremists gave new calls. What is the new calls? Boycott the goods. It was first advocated by Krishna Kumar Mitra in Sanjeevani newspaper in 1903. And practice Swadeshi. Then again, passive resistance. What is my passive resistance? Advocated by Bipin Chandrapal. Boycott everything British, not just the goods. Not just the goods, boycott everything Britishers. Don't go to schools, colleges. Don't use their goods. Okay, don't import anything. Okay, then resign from the jobs. Everything British you have to, we can say, you have to boycott. That is called as passive resistance. Initially boycott only for goods. Now they extended boycott to every aspect of Britishers. So make sure the governance is impossible. Don't use their courts. Don't go to their police station. Use panchayats as alternatives to Britishers. And lastly, spread this movement outside Bengal also. That is what we can say extremist thinking we can talk about. They are radical. Moderates were within Bengal, but they want to make it an all India movement. That is the differences, ideological difference between moderates as well as extremists we can talk about. Okay, and now it is became Swadeshi movement. So these are the anti-partition movement, it became Swadeshi movement. It is truly Swadeshi we can talk about. Okay, and now outside spread. Who are the leaders who spread this movement outside? Tilak in Bombay. Then again we can talk about Chidambaram Pillai in Madras. Ajit Singh as well as Lala Lajpat Rai in Punjab. Ajit Singh was the uncle of Bhagat Singh. Then in Delhi, Syed Hyder Raza. So that is how they took this movement outside. We can talk about Bengal also. Now it is too radical for moderates. Now the differences are emerging between moderates as well as extremists. Now extremists want to make it all India, but moderates want to keep it within Bengal itself only. That is also one of the differences. Now 1906 session, that is Calcutta session. The Dadabhai Nauroji was the president. DBN is Dadabhai Nauroji. 4 resolutions were passed where moderates and extremists agreed to. That is Swadeshi. Yes, we will agree. Boycott. But boycott interpretation is different. Boycott only goods for moderates. Boycott everything for extremists. National education, exactly. Then again, Swaraj or self-government. Moderate Swaraj is within the British Empire. Extremist Swaraj is outside British Empire. That is also again interpretation problem. And now because of this interpretation problem only, 1907 Surat split happened. 1905 Banaras session Gopalakrishna Gokhale. 1906 session Dadabhai Nauroji, and 1907 session, that is Surat session we can talk about, and that is where Raj Bihari Ghosh was the president over there, and that is where all the differences came to the open, and that led to the split between moderates and extremists within INC. Extremists were expelled out there. That will come to that one. Okay. And now what is the social base? Who participated in this movement? Students, of course, boycotting schools, colleges. Traders and merchants not importing goods, not using British goods. Then women also, particularly upper class women, started participating. Hindu-Muslim unity was showed because one of the reasons behind the division of Bengal was to divide Bengal on the base of communal reason. That is, East Bengal became Muslim majority province and West Bengal became Hindu majority provinces. So they want to divide like that one. So Hindu-Muslim unity was shown. But the real base, what is one of the flip point of this particular movement is that one, the peasants were not participated. The peasants participated by the time of, we can talk about non-cooperation, civil disobedience and Quit India movement by that point of time. Okay, so this is social base. Moderate social base is only educated sections, the upper section, business classes. But right now the students, we can talk about women, and that is the deepening of Indian nationalism. Okay, so now we'll come to the facts of Swadeshi. So various facts happened during this point of time that we are going to summarize that one. This is where the prelims points will come. Now Rabindranath Tagore and Ramendra Sundar Trivedi, they advocated Hindus and Muslims to tie Rakhi to each other. That is Raksha Bandhan. Now Rabindranath Tagore wrote Amar Sonar Bangla. Okay, and now Vande Mataram used to be sung. It became the theme song of this entire Indian national movement itself only. So the Swadeshi movement is called as Vande Mataram movement in Andhra Pradesh, led by Bipin Chandra Pal in 1997. Then Subramanya Bhartiya wrote Swadeshi Geetam, that is in Tamil Nadu. Then Arvind Ghosh, one of the extremist leaders, it declared the political freedom is life breath of a nation. Okay, now partition is secondary, independence is primary. Okay, independence became the major goal right now. So that is how, these are some of the facts of Swadeshi movement we can talk about. So they can ask for match the following, which slogan was given during which point of time. Then some more facts we can talk about. Many Swadeshi Samitis came into existence to mobilize the people. They are called as Samitis. Like one example, Swadesha Bandhav Samiti by Ashwini Kumar Datta, Dawn Society by Satish Chandra Mukherjee in 1902, Suhrid as well as Sadhana Samitis, then again Anti-Circular Society against Carlyle Circular. Carlyle was one of the officers of Britishers. He put a restriction on the students' participation, and that is the reason to protest against that one. There was an Anti-Circular Society. Carlyle was an officer. Okay, in Bengal province. And Swadeshi Sangam in Tamil Nadu by V.O. Chidambaram Pillai as well as Subramanya Shiva. And V.O. Chidambaram Pillai also established Swadeshi Steam Navigation Company in Tuticorin as a competition against the British Steam Navigation Company. So that is what truly Swadeshi is all about. Building alternatives to, we can say, British institutions, British schools, British colleges. Okay, and then again, a National Council of Education. That was one of the answer options we talked about by Satish Chandra Mukherjee in 1906 to promote national education as well as sciences. That was the goal we can talk about. And then the Bengal National College was also established. Then Arvind Ghosh as the principal, Raj Bihari Ghosh as the president. Okay. And finally, Bengal Technical Institute was also established. Now, technical education also alternative. Then in Bengal National College, that is the word national, associated with India, associated with, we can say, nationalism. Then a National Council of Education to promote national education as well as sciences. So it's a different articulation of the Swadeshi. different articulation. And then finally, this Bengal National College, okay, at the same time we can talk about this Bengal technical, I think I mistyped here, okay, so sorry for that one. Okay, and this one particularly BNC as well as BTI, okay, this went on to become, we can say, Jadavpur University. Understood, right? So both of them combined and went on to become Jadavpur University. So that is, sorry for the mistake. Okay, so this is facts of Swadeshi we can talk, some of the facts we can talk about. And then again some more facts. Now Swadeshi enterprises started. Bengal Chemicals Factory by Prafulla Chandra Ray, 1901. Banga Lakshmi Cotton Mills by Byomkesh Chakravarti, okay, Chakravarti, and in 1906 it is taken over by Upendranath Sen. Mohini Mills in 1998 by Mohini Mohan Chakravarti. National Tannery by Neil Ratan Sarkar. Bengal National Bank, that is a alternative to almost every aspect. Boycott everything Britishers. We don't want to use British goods, colleges, and British enterprises also. 1998, National Insurance Company 1906, Bengal Steam Navigation Company 1905. So this is how this Swadeshi got articulated. Many facts. So they can ask for match the following. They can ask which of the following enterprises came up during the Swadeshi movement. You can give this particular example. More cultural Swadeshi. Now art also getting influence from Indianness, getting influence from Rajput painting, getting influence from Mughal painting, getting influence from Ajanta painting. Like Ashok Kumar Mitra wrote biographies of Siraj-ud-Dawla, Mir Qasim, Battle of Plassey, Battle of Buxar. He founded a journal called as Aitihasik Charitra. Rabindranath Tagore wrote one novel called as Garebare, but he wrote it very late. Okay, it means at home and outside in 1916 actually it was, but inspired by Swadeshi movement. And how it was inspired by Swadeshi movement, one of the characters of this Garebare was Bimala, and emerging out of patriarchy to independent women. And that is Swadeshi movement we can talk about, that is under the clutches of Britishers, and India went going on to become independent later. That we are no longer dependent upon Britishers. Swadeshi. Okay, so that is articulated in 1916, but inspiration from Swadeshi movement, one character. Okay, then again, Indian Society of Oriental Arts, Calcutta 1997, Abanindranath Tagore, known for, we can talk about, we can say Mother India concept, okay, promote Indian culture, promote nationalistic art and architecture, Portrait of Mother India by Nandalal Bose and Abanindranath Tagore. That became very famous. The symbols of nationalism started to be created, particularly by we can say Indian Society of Oriental Arts by Abanindranath Tagore, 1997. Then Nandalal Bose too. And then we can talk about some more. The end of Swadeshi movement happened. So that is what happened over there. The extremists could not give positive lead because some of the leaders got arrested because split happened between moderates and extremists, and that led to disunity within the nationalistic leadership. Okay, Surat split happened. That disadvantage to Britishers we can talk about. British divide and rule policy, the repressive policies, especially Carlisle Circular is a repressive policy, not to make students participate in the movement, and giving support to All India Muslim League. All India Muslim League was established in 1906 as a rival organization to INC. Then Tilak was arrested in 1908. Arvind Ghosh went to Pondicherry because there was a case against Arvind Ghosh we can talk about. Okay, one second. Okay. And moderates were always against mass movement. They did not believe in mass movement, but revolutionaries took matters into their hands. Moderates failed, extremists took over. Now extremists also failed. Now revolutionaries took matter into hands, and they started punishing British officials. Okay, and finally, this partition was annulled in 1911 by George V. He was the king who was visiting India. Okay, and Assam was separated from Bengal. Then West Bengal and East Bengal was merged, and finally we can talk about Bihar and Odisha was also merged as a one provinces later times. And 1935 Bihar was also separated. Okay, so this is, we can talk about the Swadeshi movement. So all the facts associated with Swadeshi movement I have tried to bring in here. So you people just have to go and download this one and keep on, we can say, that is revising this particular thing. This will be found on NISHTA IAS official Telegram channel. Okay, so now this is the end of Swadeshi movement. And now there is one more movement, okay, that is, we can talk about the Home Rule League movement. That's right. Now, what is the background for Home Rule League movement is that one. Tilak was arrested in 1908. I will come to that one. Tilak was arrested in 1908 on the charges of, we can say, sedition. He was released in 1914 after, we can talk about 6 years of jail. And then in 1914 there was the First World War. In 1914 there was First World War. When First World War happened, what was the ideas of Indian national leadership was that one. Everybody supported Britishers except revolutionaries. Extremists supported, moderates supported, Gandhi also supported, hoping that Britishers will pay back some kind of loyalty, some kind of political reforms they are going to give. But revolutionaries did not support, they never supported. and they felt like it is a perfect opportunity to overthrow the Britishers. Now Tilak was expecting, after he was released from jail, he gave support, but Britishers did not pay back that loyalty. And now we felt like we need to put a pressure on the Britishers to take back what we want, to get that Swaraj. And that is the reason he came up with this idea, that is the Home Rule League movement, inspired from, we can say, Ireland. Swadeshi movement, there was official support from INC, Banaras session, Calcutta session we talked about, but for this movement, there is no support by INC, because INC after 1907 Surat split came under the control of moderates. Now moderates were against mass movement. This is a movement led by an extremist leader, that is, we can talk about Bala Gangadhar Tilak. And that is the reason, no support by INC. Okay, what is the reasons? Simple. First World War happened, 1914. Inflation happened because all the food crops and everything was diverted to war efforts. So food shortage happened, inflation happened. People were against Britishers right now. Loyalty was not paid back as Tilak had pledged support. I told Tilak gave support to the Britishers. And then again we can talk about 1909 Act by Minto Morley reforms we can talk about. Our Indian Councils Act of 1909 was disappointing because it led to communal division of the country. Okay, or we can communal division of the communities we can talk about, separate electorate. Now Annie Besant also entered into politics. A new leader entering into politics, that gave some kind of enthusiasm to the people. Now people were ready to put some kind of pressure on the government. Now Tilak also ready to launch another mass movement. The popular pressure is necessary to get concession, whatever the concession we want, that is Swaraj, that we want Home Rule. Okay, so these are the reasons for Home Rule movement. That is a background also, that is also we can put it out. Okay, now what is the objective of Tilak? Like Irish Home Rulers, a reform of the administration, not the overthrow of the government. Okay, it is not the complete overthrow of Britishers, but rather asking Britishers to bring some kind of reforms within the country, give greater autonomy within the British Empire only. And that is where he gave this famous slogan, that what is that famous slogan? Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it. So during this moment only, that is Bala Gangadhar Tilak gave this particular statement. Okay, Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it. That Swaraj is not complete independence, greater autonomy within the British Empire. Now two Home Rule leagues were there. One is led by Tilak, other one is led by Annie Besant. Tilak started in April 1916. In headquarters was Pune, and the first meeting held in Belgaum. Belgaum is in Karnataka. Today it is called as Belagavi. And now Tilak Home Rule movement will focus on Maharashtra, Karnataka, Berar as well as Central Province. Okay, so that is where he is going to organize his mass movement with the help of G.S. Kappad. And now when you come to Annie Besant, she started the movement in September 1916. Okay, September 1916. He started in April 1916. And where she is going to establish mass movement or going to lead the mass movement? Rest of India, including Bombay city. Even though Tilak established mass movement in Maharashtra, excluding Bombay city, but Annie Besant is going to include in Bombay city, because Bombay city was under the, we can say, major influence of moderate leaders. So that is the reason we can say Tilak did not fight much over there, rather related to Annie Besant. And why the two different date is that one? Annie Besant was expecting support from the Indian National Congress to support the movement, but because it was under moderates control, they never gave the support. So that is the reason. Tilak knew INC is not going to support, so he started the movement first. Then Annie Besant expecting the support never came. So that is the reason he started quite late. And who are the leaders of the Annie Besant faction? We can talk about, one second. George Arundel was the organizing secretary. Then we can BP Wadia, CP Ramaswamy Iyer. Then again, S. Subramania Iyer, he was the honorary president. Was also member of Viceroy Executive Council, which is the highest decision-making body. So all the leaders, Arundel, BP Wadi and CP Ramaswamy Iyer, S. Subramania Iyer, he was the honorary secretary of this movement. He was also part of, we can say, Viceroy Executive Council twice, which is the highest decision-making body in the country. Okay. Now, what are the demands? Of course, Swaraj, Home Rule, like the Ireland that is demanding. Indian state should be on the basis of linguistic states, not communal divisions we can talk about. Education should be given in vernacular languages. Reform of the administration, Indianize the administration, include more Indians in the administration. That is what we can talk about, the major demands of Home Rule League movement. Now, what are the programs? How to demand? What is the way to fight? Of course, meeting, demonstrations, setting up libraries, because to inculcate the reading habits. Then again, newspaper campaigns. Particularly two newspapers played a role. Two newspapers from the Annie Besant faction, that we can New India as well as Commonweal. So newspaper campaigns we can talk about. And two leagues, they worked separately, they did not merge, because the reason is that one, these two leagues we can talk about, two leaders we are talking about, Annie Besant and we can say Tilak. So they we can talk about had great respect for each other, but the followers did not like each other. Followers did not like each other, and that is the reason they did not merge the movement. They kept it separate, because in case of any untoward incidents happen, there is an excuse for the Britishers to crush the movement itself only. So they did not merge, they separately worked, but the coordination was there. The leaders had coordination, but the followers had some kind of, we can talk about the conflicting situation. And even Servants of India Society members also joined the league. Okay, Servants of India Society established by Gopala Krishna Gokhale. And what are the other features of this one? We can talk about, again, Tilak resisted from using, did not use religious symbols to bring that religious unity. He supported abolition of untouchability. For the first time, he went beyond, we can talk about these conservative viewpoints. Entry of youth in large numbers, particularly Jawaharlal Nehru. Okay, and Indian national movement. Okay, 1 second. Now, because of Home Rule League movement, now Indian national movement tried to reach smaller towns as well as villages also. And particularly, we can talk about the western part of the country, even in northwestern part, Gujarat, Sindh region, they started to come into the fold of nationalism right now. So this is what we can talk about, some of the facts over there. Now, what are the government actions over there? So government actions, very simple, of course, restriction on the Tilak's entry into certain areas. Okay, particularly, especially in regions like, we can say Delhi. Okay, all these places, Tilak's entry was banned. And now Tilak put a case, and Tilak case was taken up by Jinnah. Jinnah supported Tilak, and he defended Tilak in these particular cases. Arrested Annie Besant as well as BP Wadia. That led to more protests, led to more intense protests. And of course, we can talk about S. Subramania in support of, we can talk about Annie Besant. Against the British arrest of Annie Besant, he gave up his knighthood because he had a title, Sir S. Subramania. He gave up the knighthood, and then she was released later. Okay, and of course, we can talk about the end of the movement lastly, and that is because the government repression, restrictions on the movements, and then we can talk about carrot and stick. That is, what is carrot and stick? It's part of divide and rule policy. In August 1917, political reforms were announced. That is what the movement was needed, right? That's what the demand. No movement, political reforms were announced. That is called as August Declarations. Montagu Declaration of August 1917, which went on to become Government of India Act of 1919. Then they announced Franchisee Committee that we will give you voting rights. Okay, and that created division among the leaders. Some leaders wanted to take this particular offer. Some leaders, let's continue the movement. Again, some kind of, we can say, differences emerged between the leaders. Okay, and Annie Besant vacillated about reforms. That is, initially she supported the reforms. Later, she wanted to continue the movement. Later, she again supported reforms. Later, again in favor of the reforms. Again in favor of, we can say, movement. So she became confused about whether to go ahead with the reforms or to go ahead with the movement itself only. And now Tilak had to go to England, had to go to London to fight a case against one of the journalists in Britain. Is that one? His name was Valentine Chirol. He wrote a book called as Indian Unrest. In this book, he called Tilak as the father of Indian unrest. So to put a defamation case against him, Tilak went to London. So that is the reason the movement became leaderless. Annie Besant is not so sure about the course of action. Now Tilak had to go out of the country, and now the movement ended, overall we can say. And the British policy also played a role. And now Home Rule League, Gandhi became the president of Home Rule League in 1920. Now we changed the name of Home Rule League into Swarajya Sabha. Okay, in 1920, he became the president of Home Rule League. Then he changed the name into Swarajya Sabha, and later it was merged with INC, because INC becoming All India organization leading the Indian national movement by 1920s. Okay, and now to support Indian Home Rule League, Lajpat Rai was in America. He established Indian Home Rule League in America also in 1917 as a support to Tilak, as to get the support of the American public opinion in favor of Indian national movement. So Lajpat Rai established Indian Home Rule League in 1917. Now this question was asked, which of the following changes named to Swarajya Sabha 2018, All India Home Rule League? We can say Hindu Mahasabha, South Indian Liberal Federation, or we can Servants of India Society. And that is, we know, answer is All India Home Rule League. This was asked in 2018 again. So this is about the Home Rule League movement. And during the Home Rule League movement, 1915, 16, 17, one session happened, Lucknow session. Why it is important? In Surat session, there was a split happened. In Lucknow session, headed by, or we can say, president was Ambika Charan Majumdar, AC Majumdar. Extremists rejoined INC. Okay, and Tilak accepted the reforming administration rather than overthrow of the Britishers, and that is the reason he also became little bit of changing his ideologies also, and that is the reason moderates accepted. And Mahatma Gandhi also attended this session, this Lucknow session we can talk about. Okay, and again Congress and League, All India Muslim League, they signed a pact called as Lucknow Pact. Now in this pact, Jinnah played a role, and then again of course they accepted joint representation. That is, both of them are going to fight against the Britishers. And then again we can talk about one mistake they did was accepting Communal Electorate of 1909 Act. That's Minto Morley reforms, which had given separate electorate, and that they both accepted. Both should have been opposed that one, and that led to ultimately we can talk about the communal riots as well as we can say the alienation of the communities that happened, which ultimately led to 1947 partition we can talk about. So this Lucknow session during that point of the 1916 session, one of the important sessions we can say. And now we are coming into another mass movement, that is non-cooperation movement. Before getting into non-cooperation movement, look at the question asked in 2025. Consider the following subjects with regard to non-cooperation program 2025: boycott of law courts and foreign cloth, observance of strict non-violence, retention of titles and honors without using them in public, establishment of panchayats for settling disputes. Okay, how many of the above are parts of the non-cooperation movement? Only one, only two, only three, all the four. When you are non-cooperating, why do you want to retain the titles? Boycott everything, non-cooperate. That is what passive resistance is all about. Yes, you need alternative, that is panchayats. Non-violence, of course, Gandhi always believed in that one. Okay, so boycott of law courts, exactly, the answer has to be C. Okay, this is 2025, last year. Then one more question, look at here. Consider the following statement in respect of the non-cooperation movement 2025 again. The Congress declared the attainment of Swaraj by all legitimate and peaceful means. Yes, not non-violent means, legitimate and peaceful, exactly, legal means. It was to be implemented in stages. Yes, there are 2 stages for there. We are going to discuss that one. With civil disobedience and non-payment of taxes for the next stage, only if Swaraj is not come within a year and government resorted to repression. Government resorted to repression. Swaraj did not come within a year. Now Gandhi was ready to launch civil disobedience, but due to some we can say untoward incident that happened in Chauri Chaura, so it had to be withdrawn. Yes, but the planning was in 2 stages. Which of statements are correct? 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2. As the answer is actually C, both 1 and 2. And then one more. Who provided legal defense to people arrested in aftermath of Chauri Chaura incident? Chittaranjan Das, Madan Mohan Malviya and Krishnakant, Dr. Saifuddin Kislev and Khwaja Hassan Nizami, Jinnah. No, it was actually Madan Mohan Malviya as well as we can talk about we can say Krishnakant. They are the one who provided legal defense to the people who got arrested after the Chauri Chaura incident. Okay, so this is some of the question that has been asked. And now come to Khilafat non-cooperation movement. Okay, now we are coming into Khilafat non-cooperation movement. Now, what is the background? What is the background for this particular movement is that one is the Rowlatt Act of 1919, which was brought to control the revolutionary activities, which took away the basic, we can talk about the fundamental rights as well as the basic human rights also we can call it about, and a protest against Rowlatt Act happened, and that is when Jallianwala Bagh happened. In Jallianwala Bagh, many people died. We know exactly about Jallianwala Bagh. Then again, General Dayar, okay, who was the culprit of Jallianwala Bagh, to support him, Morning Post newspaper raised a fund of 26,000 pounds. There was a martial law in Punjab. Okay, there is military rule in Punjab. Hunter Commission to inquire into Jallianwala Bagh, to inquire into this martial law atrocities, but it was called as Disorder Inquiry Committee, but it was nothing came out of this one. It was just a whitewash. Okay, and then again, no self-government in 1919 Act. In August 1917 declaration they did, Montego Declaration, 1919 Act. Self-government they promised, no self-government. Again, the inflation situation continued from the First World War. The people were anti-British. Then the Khilafat issue. What is Khilafat issue? Khilafat, that is Khalifa, that is Sultan of Turkey, we can talk about the Ottoman Empire. He was considered as the spiritual leader of Islamic people across the world. Now Turkey fought on this side of, we can say, Germany, Austria-Hungary in the First World War. Britishers were against them. Now Britishers defeated Turkey. Now Britishers were taking away the rights of Khalifa. His spiritual rights also, political rights also. Now there was a movement against that one. Across the world there was a movement, and in India also there was a movement against Britishers to convince the Britishers not to take away particularly spiritual powers. Even if you take away political powers, don't take away spiritual powers. That is a Khilafat issue. That is the reason. Look at it one. Turkey fought on the side of Germany in First World War. Okay, got defeated, of course. And now negotiation after the war was going on, and talk of taking away the spiritual as well as political power of Caliph, that is Sultan of Turkey, that is Ottoman Empire. And to oppose this, the Khilafat committee we can talk about. Okay, one second. Okay, 1 second. To oppose this, Khilafat committee was established in India in 1919. Okay, that is the Khilafat issue. And now when Britishers did not respect Khalifa, the Khilafat leaders also, and they wanted to launch this particular non-cooperation movement. And other leaders we can talk about, all of them came together and they launched this non-cooperation movement because of all those Jallianwala Bagh issue, Rowlatt Act issue. Now vis-a-vis new national leaders, young nationalist leaders, particularly under the control of, we can talk about All India Muslim League, that is Maulana Azad, Al-Hilal, he started one, we can say, Urdu weekly in 1912 called as Al-Hilal, Maulana Azad. Then again, Muhammad Ali, he started an English weekly called as Comrade, Shaukat Ali, famously called as Ali Brothers, Asrat Mohani, Akim Ajmal Khan, Hassan Imam, okay, again M.A. Ansari. So new leaders which were carrying that, we can say, Khilafat, we can say, movement against the Britishers' treatment to the Caliph, or we can call a Khalifa. Okay, so these are new young nationalist leaders who were completely anti-British, who identified with, who did not accept the communal politics of the previous leadership which was existed in All India Muslim League. Now the Khilafat leaders are completely against communal politics and are completely anti-British also. And now the Khilafat progress we can talk about. In November 1919, All India Khilafat Conference happened in Delhi. They said if Britishers did not accept the demands, that is to respect Khalifa, we are going to launch, we can say, boycott of British goods. That is Asrat Mohani made a call. Then non-cooperation with the Britishers also they declared if they did not respect Khalifa. In 1920, they made an alliance with INC. Then again Gandhi, okay, 1 second. Gandhi was also became the president. 1 second. Just little bit of one technical issue. Now Gandhi appointed as the president of All India Khilafat Committee also. And finally, in May 1920, Treaty of Sèvres was signed. Sèvres is a city in France. Now in this treaty, the Khalifa's powers were taken away. Khalifa's powers were completely taken away. Now as Khalifa's powers were taken away, now they are ready for the boycott, now ready for the non-cooperation. Okay, so that is what happened. Now the non-cooperation movement. Now look at, in June 1920, all-party conference in Allahabad happened. Then again, they approved the non-cooperation movement. And 1920, the 1st August was the official launch of non-cooperation movement. Now INC in a special session in September 1920, Lajpat Rai was the president in Calcutta. They passed the resolution to support non-cooperation movement, to approve the non-cooperation movement. Now look at, INC supported Swadeshi movement, not Home Rule League movement. Now INC is formally supporting non-cooperation movement. Okay, and then this program of non-cooperation movement, it has to be in 2 phases. The first phase, and in the first phase, what people have to follow? Of course, non-violence, boycott, Swadeshi, give up titles, not retention of title. That was the answer option was there. Khadi, use Khadi, don't use British goods. And demonstrations, Arthals we can talk about. And again, the second phase will come to civil disobedience. What is civil disobedience? If the first phase is not achieved, is not achieving that Swaraj, we will go to the second phase, that is civil disobedience. That civil disobedience means willful violation of the laws, forest laws, taxation law, any laws for that matter. Okay, so that is called as the second phase. But second phase was never launched. Now major events, the same way we are going to look at the major events we can talk about. In 1920 session happened in Nagpur, INC session. Vijaya Raghavacharya was the president. Now in this session, INC constitution changed. What is the INC constitution? Initially they believed in constitutional method of struggle. But right now they changed it to, we will fight constitutional way also, we will use extra constitutional methods also, and peaceful methods too, legal and peaceful methods, which is mass movement. So constitution change, extra constitutional and peaceful methods, and to this extra constitutional method is a mass movement. To organize the masses, we require provincial INC committees. So that is where the decision was taken, and they also established, 1 second, from constitutional methods to extra constitutional peaceful methods. Then again the provincial INC committees was established. Then again the Congress established Congress working committee of 15 members to lead the organization also. So that is where the INC organization was changed, and Chittaranjan Das gave complete support to NCM. Initially he was not in favor of that one. Initially he was quite skeptical of, we can talk about the non-violent non-cooperation, but later he gave support, particularly in this particular session we can talk about. And some leaders left INC because they did not see any particular merit over there in these particular methods. Annie Besant, Bipin Chandrapal, Jinnah, G.S. Kapade, they still believed in constitutional methods rather than, we can say, extra constitutional methods. Okay, and now Surnath Banerjee, He had already come out of INC over 1919 Act because he was accepted 1919 Act. Some leaders of INC did not accept 1919 Act, and that is the reason he came out and established this Indian Liberal Federation, a separate party outside the INC he established. He was one of the founding members of INC, but he came out of INC over differences over 1919 Act because he accepted 1919 Act, but some other leaders were not ready to accept 1919 Act, which is disappointing. Now, non-cooperation movement, look at some of the major events we can talk about. National education was supported, many institutions came into existence, like we can talk about Subhash Chandra Bose, he became the principal of National College at Calcutta. Then Jamia Millia was established at Aligarh, then later moved to Delhi in 1935. Kashi Vidyapeth in 1929. In February, Shiva Prasad Gupta and Bhagwan Das, they are the one who established Kashi Vidyapeth, and in 1995 renamed as Mahatma Gandhi Kashi Vidyapeth. Then again in Gujarat Vidyapeth, Bihar Vidyapeth. So all these things came during the non-cooperation movement. Okay, so many educational institutions, because you are boycotting British colleges, British schools, you need an alternative. Okay, and then again some more one fund was established that is called Tilak Swaraj Fund, and people contributed because Tilak passed away on the day of the launching of the movement. So that gave we can say a kind of a we can talk about the mourning. We can say one of the respected leaders passed away. Now in his honor, a Tilak Swaraj Fund was established. The people contributed, 1 crore was collected. Okay, and that was used for mobilization of the people, and of course for we can say organizing mass movement. Okay, then again Congress Volunteer Corps were established. They emerged as a parallel police because you're not going to use the British polices. You need a parallel police. Now they are called as Congress Volunteer Corps. Okay. Then picketing of the liquor shops, particularly by women, we can talk about. What do you mean picketing of liquor shops is that one? You're just standing outside the British liquor shops, which was generating major revenue, and convincing the people who are coming to liquor shops to not to buy from these particular shops. Okay, not to buy from this one. So that is called as picketing of liquor shops. That is boycott everything Britishers. Okay. Then in July 1921, Ali brothers, Shaukat Ali, Muhammad Ali, they gave a speech asking Muslims to resign from the British Indian Army, calling it as unethical, calling it as un-Islamic, using religion to we can say we can talk about to mobilize the people. Particularly here, soldiers we can talk about. Ask Muslim soldiers to resign, calling it as we can say as un-Islamic. Now Gandhi asked similar resolutions from INC, asking Hindu soldiers to resign from the army. Answered. Then why resigning from army is quite important, because that was a pillar of support, right? We can say 3 administrative pillars we can talk about, that is civil services, police and army, and that is what Britishers used to sustain their rule in India for a very long period of time. And now NCM in July 1921, Ali brothers asked, we talked about already this one, and again no tax campaigns. One second, what is this issue? Okay, in Midnapur and Guntur, I don't know why it is happening. Okay, I will write here. Okay, that is Midnapur. Okay, and Guntur. Okay, Midnapur in Bengal and Guntur in Andhra Pradesh we can talk about. That is, people already started no tax campaign, that we are not going to pay any kind of taxes. Okay, that is a civil disobedience. Even before civil disobedience could be launched, no tax campaign started. Then tea workers strike in Assam. Then again steam workers strike in Bengal, led by J.M. Sengupta. Now all the people that started participating, workers, peasants, we can talk about the peasant that not to paying taxes. In November 1921, the Prince of Wales, Edward, he visited India, and he was expecting a grand reception, grand welcome. Nobody went to meet him, and there was a strike against his visit. There was a demonstration against his visit, but some people still went to meet him, to greet him, still people in favor of the Britishers, and that led to clashes. That led to, we can say, violent clashes. So that is the reason Gandhi postponed CDM, the second phase. That is, CDM is no tax campaign. Even though there are some people already inspired to launch the no tax campaigns, but officially it was never launched. Okay, now because of the violence clashes that happened, so Gandhi postponed this one. Then again, NCM at local level, look at that one. Our local level movements also became part of the non-cooperation movement, like Awadh Kisan movement. That is the Kisan, that is the peasants are fighting against Talukdar's exploitation in 1920, particularly led by these peasants were led by Jawaharlal Nehru, Baba Ramchandra. Eka movement in UP, that is we can talk about Madhuri Pasi was the leader against the higher rent collection. Mapila revolt in Malabar coast, led by we can say Variam Kunnat Kunj Ahmad Aji, okay, that is also peasant movement. Sikh agitation for the removal of the corrupt Mahants, that is Akali movement started. So all of them became part of the national movement. The local movements becoming part of national peasant movement, religious movement, okay, we can talk about, they were becoming part of the local movements or we can national movement. Some tribal movements also happened, like Santhal, the Santhal rebellion happened during this point of time. It was many Santhal rebellions happened. Now again Santals also revolted, led by Shailajananda Sen in Bengal. Gude Mills in Andhra Pradesh led by Alluri Sitaramaraju, then Garhwal Hills as well as Kumaon Hills in UK led by Badrinath Pandey. So many tribal movements, many peasant movements, they were all becoming part of, we can say, overall the non-cooperation movement. Now what is social base? Overall participating, look at students, lawyers, women, then again we can talk about peasants, okay, tribes, business classes, and Hindu-Muslim unity was at its peak. Okay, many people are coming into nationalistic fold. So that is what the deepening of Indian national movement we can talk about. That is non-cooperation movement social basis. Okay. Now government response, talks between Gandhi and Reading. Reading was the, we can talk about the viceroy. Talks broke down. They tried to divide and rule actually in May 1921. Okay. That is, they tried to divide Hindu-Muslim, asking Gandhi to control the speeches of Ali brothers who were giving fair speeches, who were using religious symbols also. Okay. Mahatma Gandhi to control Ali brothers' speeches, but Gandhi declined it. Okay, Gandhi was too smart to accept that particular demand because they know they are trying to bring this particular discord. Because Gandhi himself asked INC to launch a similar resolution asking Hindu soldiers to resign from British Indian Army, calling it as anti, we can say it is going against your spiritual principles to serve in British Indian Army. Okay, now what is the British response after this one? Repression happened, declared volunteer groups as illegal, arrested leaders except Gandhi. Okay, and ban press meetings, that's what dictator government will do. Okay, ban all the activities, no mass movement could be possible. And now the last phase of CDM that we can talk about, Ahmedabad session happened in 1921. The president was Chittaranjan Das, but Chittaranjan Das was arrested because most of the leaders got arrested. Now the acting president was Hakim Ajmal Khan, but Chittaranjan Das was in jail and now asked Mahatma Gandhi to decide on CDM, whether to launch the CDM, to go ahead with the no tax campaigns or not. Okay, and then finally Mahatma Gandhi decided on CDM on February 1st, 1922. He said that we will launch CDM from Bardoli in Gujarat if two conditions are not met. What are the two conditions? One, all the political prisoners should be released because Britishers are arresting them. Second, remove all the press controls, remove all the restrictions on the meetings. If not, we are going to launch civil disobedience movement. But what happened? Chori Chora incident happened on 5th February 1922. Police assaulted a peaceful protest. Picketers of liquor shops in Chori Chora in UP attacked the police stations and burnt. Okay, the people, they were peacefully protesting. The police attacked them. As a response, the people attacked the police station. It led to violence clashes. Okay, then of course, ultimately because of violence, Gandhiji withdrew the movement. The civil disobedience within non-cooperation never launched. It came to be launched ultimately in 1930. Now, Congress Working Committee met at Bardoli, same place, 12th February, where civil disobedience was supposed to be launched. It asked stop all the political activity and focus on constructive activity. What is constructive activity? Constructive activity is about strengthening the Indian nationalism, strengthening the leadership position, asking the leaders to tour the country, mobilize the people, create awareness, okay, increase the membership of INC, temple entry movement, abolish untouchability, build schools, alternative schools, okay. That is the reason masses can participate a very longer period of time without sacrificing their lives in future, without sacrificing their livelihoods and lives in future also. So this is the end of we can say non-cooperation movement. Some more facts over there, okay. I think, yeah, this is it. This is about all the non-cooperation movement facts. Now we are coming into one more moment. We have to discuss two more moments, civil disobedience as well as we can talk about, then we can say Quit India movement. Now before going into civil disobedience, look at the questions. Okay, so look at again 2025. Sedition has become a religion was the famous statement given by Gandhi at the time of Champaran Satyagraha, are publicly violating Salt Lord Dandi, attending the second round table conference in London and the launch of the Quit India movement. Okay, the answer is actually that is violating Salt Lord. Sedition is anti-national. Okay, so violation of laws, that is publicly violating Salt Lord Dandi. That's when he gave his speech. Okay, and then look at this one. Who of the following organized a march on the Tanjavur coast to break the Salt Law? V.O. Chidambaram Pillai, C. Rajagopalachari, K. Kamaraj, and then again we get Annie Besant. The answer is actually C. Rajagopalachari. Okay, that is also part of civil disobedience movement. This was also asked as a question. Then one more about Gandhi-Irwin Pact. Gandhi-Irwin Pact includes which of the following? Invitation of Congress to participate in the Roundtable Conference, withdrawal of ordinances promulgated in connection with the civil disobedience movement, acceptance of Gandhi's suggestions for inquiry into police excesses, release of only those prisoners who are not charged with violence. Okay, so this is, we'll come to Gandhi-Irwin Pact. Okay, let's look at the answers over here. So answer is actually D, B, 1, 2, 4. That is, we can say this is not accepted. The third statement was not accepted. Gandhi asked the Britishers to inquire into the police exploitation that happened, but Britishers did not accept that particular, we can say, demand. All of them were accepted. Release of only those prisoners, non-violent prisoners, withdrawal of ordinances, and to participate in roundtable conferences. Okay. Now, civil, how it is started. Now Gandhi put 11 demands in front of the Britishers to unite the entire country, okay, in January 1930, because the previous progression we can talk about, Lahore session was there, which declared complete independence. Before that, Simon Commission had come, death of Lala Lajpat Rai had happened. Okay, now the new political, we can say, energy is there in the country, okay, to want to utilize that particular new energy. Okay, and to bring all the people together. Now Gandhiji put 11 demands. These 11 demands included all the that demands of all the sections of the country. Okay, but rejected by Irwin in January 31st. Okay, that is the background for, we can say, launching of this civil disobedience movement. Now, which are these 11 demands? Which included peasant interest, included general interest, included bourgeois demand. That is a business interest. Look at here. Abolish salt tax and monopoly. That he put it under peasants category because peasants are the largest category in the country. Reduce land revenue by 50%. Okay. Then total prohibition. Reduce alcohol. We can say completely ban alcohol. That is prohibition. Release political prisoners. Bhagat Singh, Sukhdev, Rajguru. They had been arrested. Okay. Then again CID reforms, because criminal investigation reforms is necessary because they were used for exploitation. Reduce army and civil service expenditure, which was leading to drain of wealth. Reduce by 50%. These are general interests. One more. Change Arms Act, allowing popular control of issue of firearm licenses. Arms Act, Lytton, 1878. It was a discriminatory act, only giving permission to Europeans, not to Indians. Then accept postal reservation bill to reduce the postage stampage cost. These are general interests. Then again, reduce rupee pound sterling ratio to favor the Indian exports and imports. Protect industries with tariffs, particularly textile industry in tariffs, particularly textile industry in particular. And lastly, reserve coastal shipping for Indian companies. So that will satisfy the business groups. This will satisfy the general interests. That will satisfy the peasants. And now Gandhi was seen as a person who is fighting for all the interests to bring unity because of the communal, we can say, divide and rule policy that is being brought by Britishers. And at the same time, we can talk about Gandhi was also accused of favoring only few sections. And that is the reason he wanted to bring every section together and to showcase that I am fighting for everybody. So everybody will support him. Everybody will participate in mass movement. These are 11 demands of Gandhi we can talk about. But it was rejected. We know that Irwin rejected this one. Now all section demands to have wider appeal and to unite all, particularly this salt. The salt is a common, we can say, material for every section of the country. Everybody use, peasant, general people as well as the business people also. And that was being exploited. The taxation was put on that particular, we can say, commodity. And now, rejected Irwin. Now Dandi March, 12th March to 6th April 1930, from Sabarmati Ashram to Dandi. That is where he violated the law. Salt law he violated. Okay, that is when he said sedition has become a religion. Okay, then again the programs of the civil disobedience, of course, with willful violation of laws, tax law, forest law, whichever the laws that Britishers have brought in, violate those laws peacefully, of course. Boycott everything British, Swadeshi, that is always there. So, and then again we can talk about ask women to play a role, particularly women to play a massive role during this particular, we can say, movement. And he also said that when calling women a weaker sex is a libel, that is man's injustice to women. So these are the programs. So let's see what are the events we can talk about. See, Rajagopalachari and Tanjavur coast to replicate that particular, we can say, Dandi March. Tiruchinapalli to Vedaranyam, he led a march. Then K. Kelappan on Malabar coast from Calicut to Payyanur, another march. Sylhet to Naukali, Assam, volunteers, another march to replicate the Dandi March. Okay, Dandi March Gandhi, Tanjavur coast march Rajagopalachari, that was the question. K. Kelappan in Calicut, and Malabar Coast from Calicut to Pioneer, in Sylhet to Navakali in Assam by volunteers. Okay, and then some more events in Karnataka and Maharashtra. Forest laws were violated because forests were restricted from being accessed, and that is the reason we can say people entered the forest, we can say peacefully. Then again, Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, he started a red shirts movement. It was a non-violence movement in northwestern frontier province. Okay, and it is also called as Kudai Gidmatkars, that is means servants of God. He was also a social reformer. He started the first Pashto political monthly called as Pakhtun. It was non-violently mobilized, I told you, to oppose the British. To oppose the British in northwest frontier province. The main goal is, one is the Indian independence, of course, that is always there, and social reform of the Pashto. I told you a social reform ruler also, as well as we can talk about the political leader also. So this is Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, one more event. Okay, now Darsana raid in May 1930. Mahatma Gandhi wanted to do this raid. What is Darsana? Darsana, where the salt depot was there, salt warehouse was there. Okay, now you want to violate that law. Salt cannot be the monopoly of the government. Okay, they want to take that salt and give it to the people. So Mahatma Gandhi wanted to raid this Darsana salt depot, but he was arrested. It is in Gujarat, Darsana. Okay, it was a non-violent raid and led by Abbas Tyabji, Kasturba Gandhi. They were also arrested. And later, Sarojini Naidu and Abul Kalam Azad, they led another raid, and that is where some clashes happened. In these clashes, okay, so police brutality came into open and some people died. Particularly 2 people died, and this event got the worldwide attention. That showed the power of non-violence. The government become villain, right? Because you killed 2 persons who were non-violently protesting. Particularly one of the American journalists, Webb Miller, so a USA journalist, he was covering this event, and he published this across USA also as well as Europe also. Now Indian national movement started gaining across the world attention. Okay, then Sanikatta salt raid in Karnataka, same on the same lines as Darsana salt raid. Okay, then again in Odisha, Gopalabandhu Chowdhury, he organized the salt satyagraha in Balasore, Cuttack. Okay, by we can say making salt out of sea. Then again we can say Peshawar Army Regiment refused to shoot. Now army is also against the British orders. Army is the one who took the decision in Jallianwala Bagh to shoot the people, but now army is refusing to shoot against non-violent people, against non-violent protesters. That is Peshawar Army. Then anti-Chowkidar attacks. Chowkidars, we can talk about the, we can say guards of the villages and cities in Bihar and Bengal. They refused to pay the money to the Chowkidar. That is called as anti-Chowkidar attacks movement. Then again we can say Sholapur. There was a parallel government in Maharashtra, in Sholapur region. Particularly textile workers attacked government symbols and they established a parallel government, that we don't require the British government. We can run our own parallel government. Okay, that happened in Sholapur in Maharashtra. Okay, some more events. Flag Satyagraha. Hoisting of flags was banned, and that is the reason flag satyagraha started in Andhra Pradesh by Tota Narasimha Naidu, P. Krishna Pillai in Kerala. Okay, so they started this hoisting flag against the British rules and regulations. Okay, then Manipur and Nagaland, a 13-year-old kid, Rani Gedinliu, she revolted against Britishers, and she joined Araka movement, a spiritual and political movement. She was arrested in 1932. She was given title as Rani by Jawaharlal Nehru, and she was in jail until 1947. She was only released after independence. And Jawaharlal Nehru wrote letters to British MPs to putting pressure on them to release Rani Gedinliu also. So he is the one who gave her the title Rani. Okay, and gave her title Rani. I told you that one. Okay, then events. Vanar Senas and Manjari Senas kids started participating by wearing khadi as well as hoisting flags. Okay, now kids are also participating. Now boys organize themselves as Vanar Senas, girls organize themselves as Manjari Senas by wearing khadi, because that is Indian cloth. We can talk about hoisting flags also. And some more events. We can say Prabhat Peri, that is we can say Prabhat means dawn, Peri means processions. Okay, we can talk about singing, going on procession by singing the nationalistic songs by women and men. Which are nationalistic songs we can talk about, of course, national anthem as well as we can say Vande Mataram. That was also in news we can talk about. Okay, at the local levels, that is how women and men participated. Okay, at dawn time means early morning time. Then Cunningham Circular, Carlisle Circular during Swadeshi movement. Now Cunningham Circular, he was the director of public information in Assam. He prohibited students from participating in political movements, and there was agitation against it. That is Cunningham Circular. I think I told you this Carlisle Circular. He was Chief Secretary of Bengal. Okay, in 1905 October. I'm just integrating these two. So the Cunningham Circular, Carlisle Circular, so you can remember it better. If any college violate any government order and students quit the college, they will not get any kind of, we can say, benefits. They will not get any kind of assistance from the government. So there was a agitation against Carlisle Circular during secession movement, agitation against Cunningham Circular during, we can say, a civil disobedience movement. Okay. So the first RTC happened in 1930 November. That is to discuss about the India's future, to discuss about India's political future. Chairman was Ramsay MacDonald. All the three RTCs happened. For all the three RTCs, Ramsay MacDonald was the chairman. Nobody attended it. INC boycotted it. Now Gandhi said, that is, you are organizing Ramlila without Rama. No major leadership of India was not participated in first RTC, but some people went. Okay, so all 3 round conferences were attended by only few people, like Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, then again Tej Bahadur Sapru, M.R. Jaikar, then again N.M. Joshi. Okay, some of the princely states, most of the princely states attended. That is C.N. Mudaliar from Justice Party in South India. Okay, so this is first RTC. Some extra facts. So INC boycotted first RTC, second RTC attended, third RTC boycotted, but these are the people who attended all the 3 round table conference. Princely states also you can add it. Okay, and then again, what is the government response? In January 1931, Mahatma Gandhi released. Talks started between Gandhi as well as Irwin. That is what led to Gandhi-Irwin Pact. Okay, in March 1931, suspend CDM, will suspend the movement. Participate in second RTC. Okay, right to make salt was recognized. Release non-violent political prisoners, not the violent political prisoners. That is a condition that was put. Return seized materials and withdrawal of draconian ordinances. Okay, and first time Indians are negotiating with the Britishers as equals, getting some political concessions. So that was the question, Gandhi-Irwin Pact over there. And to ratify, to approve this Gandhi-Irwin Pact, and there was a Karachi session in March 1931. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was the president of the Karachi session. Now to ratify Delhi Pact, approved it, and 2 resolutions were passed. One is National Economic Program, other one is Fundamental Rights. Okay, to securing National Economic Program for Indians, to securing fundamental rights for Indians in future. This is Karachi session, and now the second RTC happened, September-November 1931. It failed. Why? It was due to the hard stand of British government, and the British government put all the communal forces, all of them demanded separate electorate. Gandhi was against separate electorate. Okay, now everybody demanded separate electorate. Depressed classes, Christians, Europeans, Anglo-Indians. Okay, then again all wanted separate electorate. Now Gandhi was against it. Okay, now second RTC failed. Now, expecting some kind of political reforms to come too. But second RTC failed. And on January 1932, Gandhi returned to India. He resumed the CDMs. He relaunched the CDM. But a new viceroy was Willingdon. He had taken some preemptive strikes that arresting all the leaders. All the leaders got arrested. And Gandhi, as soon as he came, he was arrested. He was in jail. And finally withdraw the movement in 1934 April. So this is how second RTC. Okay, that was just a time that Britishers were looking for, because suspended CDM, but when they resumed, there was no the initial enthusiasm. So this is second RTC we can talk about. And now, or we can say withdrawal of civil disobedience movement we can talk about. Now last mass movement we are discussing, that's Quit India movement. Now look at some of the questions. Quit India movement was launched in response to Cabinet Mission, Cripps proposals, Simon Commission, or Wavell Plan. It is actually against, we can say, Cripps proposals. I'll come to the background. Okay. With reference to 8th August 1942 in Indian history, which one of the following statement is correct? Quit India resolution was adopted by the AICC. Viceroy Executive Council was expanded to include more Indians. Congress ministers resigned in 7 provinces. Or the Cripps proposed an Indian Union with full dominion status once the Second World War was over. It's actually the Quit India resolution. Okay. Now, with reference to Indian freedom struggle, Usha Mehta is well known for running secret Congress radio in the wake of Quit India movement, participating in second RTC, leading contingent of Indian National Army, assisting the formation of interim government under Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Answer is actually running a secret Congress radio. Okay, so now we are coming into the Wardha resolution in July 1942 in Bombay. Wardha is in Bombay. Now what happened? Second World War happened in 1939, began in 1939. Britishers were losing. Britishers were losing in Europe also, Britishers were losing in Asia also. Particularly in Asia, the British rivals was Japan. Japan was moving towards India. Japan was occupying, we can say, most of Asian part, especially the Koreas, then again the Southeast Asia's part, a part of China also. They were moving towards India. Now Britishers wanted Indian support to deal with Japan. And that is the reason USA put some kind of pressure on the British government to give some kind of political reforms to Indians, so that Indians can also help the Britishers in fighting against Japan. And that is the reason Britishers sent Cripps proposal, Cripps mission. Okay, that is, we can say Cripps mission it is called as. And by the Cripps mission, what Indians demanded in front of Cripps was that one, we want, we can say, complete independence, not dominion status. But the Cripps proposals were for dominion status. Now Indians rejected that one, and now we are ready for Quit India movement. We are no longer accept the subservient status of Indians under Britishers. So that is the reason, ask the Britishers to quit India. That is in Varda resolution, that is Quit India resolution in Bombay. Who gave the Quit India as well as Simon go back? Yusuf Meher Ali. He is a person who actually gave this particular, we can talk about the words, that is Yusuf, okay, Meher Ali. Okay, Meher Ali. So he also, the same one also gave the title, slogan, Simon go back. Both of them were associated with Yusuf Meher Ali. Okay, so this is what the resolution which directly led to Quit India movement. Then again, 8th August 1942, that was the question. Met at Gwalior Tank Maidan. Okay, I will come back here. Again in Bombay, we can talk about approved the Quit India resolution. Again, it is not visible. Approved Quit India resolution we can talk about. And that is Gandhi gave the mantra, do or die. But All India Muslim League, they gave the slogan divide and quit, because Pakistan movement had already started from March 1940. Lahore session of All India Muslim League, they are demanding Pakistan. Okay. Quit India movement, all leaders were arrested even before the movement could be launched on the night of 8th August. And now the movement became leaderless, now led to spontaneous response. Now that led to violence. Okay, but Swadeshi movement, Omru League movement, we can talk about ultimately civil disobedience with non-cooperation movement, for all peaceful movements. Leaders were there. Now there are no leaders. The people responded spontaneously, led to violence. Now attack and vandalize. Government officers you attack, symbols, cut telegraph, attack railways, attack rails, okay, attack blow bridges and everything. Okay, killing officers also, even Europeans also. Now forcibly hoisting flags. Okay, now violence meet violence. Government also responded violently. Severe repression, firing, machine guns. So lost vigor. The movement lost vigor. So that is the reason it went underground. Now underground movement started, because why underground movement started? Because mass movement is not possible, because masses are scared to face these machine guns, the pretty much violence. And what is underground movement? Secret activities. Underground leaders were there. Achyut Patwardhan, Rana Asaf Ali, Ram Manohar Lohia, Sucheta Kruplani. Okay, then again Usha Mehta, JP Narayan running the secret Congress radio in Bombay to spread the messages. Okay, so all of them are, we can talk about the leaders of underground movement. So what is this underground movement? Underground movement, almost similar activities: disrupt communication, blow bridges. Okay, then again we can say derail trains, attack officials. Okay, so almost similar we can talk about. So creating that fear among the Britishers too. So this is underground movement. And then again 1943, 3 members of Viceroy Executive Council, which is the IAS body, IAS decision making body, they resigned asking Gandhi to be released. Because Gandhi was fasting in jail, his health was deteriorating, and various letters were written to Britishers asking Gandhi to be released. And now Viceroy Executive Council members, that is HP Modi, NR Sarkar, MS Sani, they resigned from the Viceroy Executive Council. Okay. Other features, the parallel governments were established. Indians were showcasing that they can run their own governments. In Balia, in UP, Chittu Pandey in August 1942. In Tamluk in Bengal, called as Jatiya Sarkar in December of 1942 to September 1944. And then again in Satara in Maharashtra, led by Y.B. Chavan and Nana Patil, called as Prati Sarkar from 1943 to 1945. So Sholapur during civil disobedience movement, Balia, Tamluk, Satara. So the 3 parallel governments in Quit India, 1 parallel government was in, we can talk about, civil disobedience movement. And some of the people did not support, particularly communists. Communists, they wanted to support Britain and Russia, because Russia has joined the war. Britain was also had become an ally of Russia, and that is the reason communists said that one, we want to defeat Nazis, so that is the reason we will support the Britishers. And again, the Muslim League feared if British left India, minorities would be oppressed by the majority, so Muslim League did not support. Hindu Mahasabha also did not support. They boycotted the movement because of the communal reasons. These 2 communal organizations did not support. Okay. And finally, release of leaders happened by 1944-1945. for transfer of negotiation, if transfer of we can say power, negotiation for transfer of power. As the war was also ending, Japan got defeated, Germany had got defeated, Hitler had committed suicide, and Mussolini was hanged by Italians only. So war was coming to an end. For transfer of power negotiation, all the leaders were released. Okay, so thank you so much. So I will try to cover all the mass movements in one go. Educational, as well as we can say other one we could talk about is the British policy of, we can say, land revenue settlements, then some of the imperial policies. So last session we are going to cover some of the current affairs. So thank you so much. See you in the next session.